What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome, this is your first time here. This is one of those videos that I didn't want to have to ever make, but here it is. Here we are. We should all know what's going to happen because the writing is on the wall. They've been planning for this war with Russia for a long time. That's why they put in Zelensky. That's why they were building up Zelensky's forces in Ukraine. That's why they were doing the things they were doing, and that's why they baited Russia, made no other choice really for Russia other than to invade into Ukraine for their own protection. And it had been planned, it had been set up, and the plan was to use Ukraine to supply Ukraine with weapons, money, and to use Ukrainians to fight the Russians, to weaken Russia as much as possible. That was the whole goal of this whole thing, with this whole war with Ukraine and Russia, was to actually weaken Russia as much as possible. I don't think they actually thought Ukraine could win the war with Russia, or maybe they did. You know, maybe they thought Russia was weaker than what they actually are. Motorcycle passing by, guys, sorry about that. Loud. Maybe they thought, you know, that Russia was weaker than what they actually were, or what they actually are, and they thought that Ukraine could actually beat Russia. Maybe. But it turns out that Russia is stronger militarily than most people thought that they were. And from what I've read, from my understanding, and the interviews I've seen with people like Scott Ritter and others, according to them, you know, and what I've saw, Ukraine has been pretty much decimated. Their military completely wiped out. And, you know, I saw the other day Joe Biden was saying that they were pretty much out of ammunition, out of weapons. That's why they're having to send cluster bombs now. And they had said before that it wasn't going to happen. And cluster bombs, as far as my knowledge, have been banned in most countries. And they said that, if I'm not mistaken, they just said that if Russia used cluster bombs in Ukraine, that would be considered a war crime. But now they're sending cluster bombs. And cluster bombs, what that is it spreads out a bunch of other bombs. It's one bomb. It's like a shotgun blast, and it spreads out a bunch of other bombs. For example, it's kind of like one comes out, and then a bunch of hand grenades comes out. It's not what it is, but this is the best way to explain it. And it spreads it everywhere. And some of those blow up, some of those don't. And children find those and things like that afterwards and get blown to bits and things like that. They also said they weren't going to send, you know, the uranium shells for the tanks to take out the other tanks. And they did. We're talking about, they said they weren't going to send F-16s, fighter jets. Now they're talking about that. Everything they've said they wasn't going to do, they keep doing, because they keep pushing it. They keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because they know it's going to end. They're not going to back down. They're not going to stop. United States, deep state, and NATO's goal is to destroy Russia. That's what it is. They want to get rid of Putin. They want to weaken Russia, to break it up into more smaller states, to weaken the country, and they're not going to stop until they've reached that goal, or they're going to try to and be destroyed themselves while they're trying to reach that goal. And now they've called up, I think it was 3,000 Army reservists. It's going to keep escalating. They're not going to back down until Russia is destroyed. And Russia is going to back down until the United States and NATO is destroyed by them trying to defend themselves against the United States and NATO and the deep state. And they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. It's going to go to direct war. It already is pretty much in direct war. I'm talking about all-out direct war with the United States Navy and the Black Sea Fleet and the planes and the bombs and the nukes and everything. Is what it's going to end up being, because they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And Russia, is it going to say, well, we just give up, you won? Because they know if they did that, And they're not going to, but if Putin said, okay, you won, we're going to pull everybody out of here and go back to Russia. Putin knows, the Russians know, that wouldn't be the end of it. Because they want rid of Putin, they want rid of Russia, they want to break Russia up, they want to control Russia. So it wouldn't matter if Putin and the Russians did pull back and let Ukraine go, and let the whole Ukraine war go, and just pull back and left, pull back all the troops and left. They know it wasn't in there. The United States, NATO, is determined to push this. They knew it from the start. The goal was to use Ukraine to weaken Russia as much as possible before the United States and NATO gets involved. They will get involved. You notice, like I said, they've kept escalating and escalating, saying they weren't going to do things that 3 months later they end up doing. So we know where it's going. It's going to all-out war with Russia, and quite possibly other nations will get involved. We're already in economic war with China right now and the BRICS nations, which Russia is part of the BRICS nations. It's going to be a draft, in my opinion. Most likely there's going to be a draft. I've got 2 young nephews that are the right age to be called up, unfortunately, for a war that has nothing to do with our freedom whatsoever. Has nothing to do with anything like that whatsoever. It's a war for the deep state, a war for the globalist, just like all of the wars has been, to push their agendas, to pad their pockets, to get their own, draw their own wealth in, to hide their own criminality. They know the economy is crashing. They know the dollar's hyperinflating. So that's another reason they want to have a war with Russia, to try to hide that fact. But it's coming. All-out war is coming because Russia's not going to back down, because they know if they did back down, it wouldn't be the end of it still yet. You still have the United States, NATO, and the deep state and the globalists trying to destroy Russia. They know that. They're not going to back down. And we see now the United States, NATO, and the globalists, and the deep state here in the U.S., in the military-industrial complex, they're not going to back down. They're not going to stop escalating. They're not going to say, well, Russia won. So we know where it's going. Any idiot knows where it's going. If you don't think it's going to war, then there's something wrong with you. And it's not going to be, a war like we've had in Afghanistan. It's not going to be like that. Russia is a superpower. Russia has nuclear weapons. They have capable fighter jets. They have a navy. And they've proven themselves in Ukraine to be able to kick the crap out of the United States, pretty much, United States weapon systems, or people using United States weapon systems like the Ukrainians were. Now, obviously, the Ukrainian military and the Azov battalion, they wasn't trained on some of that, or sufficiently trained on some of that like the United States is. They didn't have the Navy support. The United States is going to have the air support. But it's going to be lots of death, lots of destruction. And if it gets to that point where they're actually, United States is sinking Russian ships, Russia is sinking United States ships, submarines, United States personnel, Russia personnel, Russia will go to nukes. It will go to nukes. They will strike in Europe. They will strike inside the United States. They have ways to, both countries have ways to cause all kinds of death and destruction, and that's where it's going to end up at, is death and destruction. Because I think we've been taken over by demonic forces, evil forces. Evil forces want this war, they want this destruction, they want this death. And it looks like they're going to get it. Because, like I said, they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. They're not going to stop whatsoever. They're not going to stop pushing this war. We'll keep escalating and escalating and escalating until hundreds of thousands are probably dead, unfortunately. I'm just taking the comments below. Do you agree, disagree, Let me know what you think. Like the video, give it a big thumbs up. Thanks for watching. I'm Creekmore out here, and I'll see you all in the next video. Hopefully, if we ain't blow the hell balloon.